Welcome to these visually dramatized true stories about Bigfoot by witnesses. For centuries, towering, fur-covered giants have haunted legends worldwide, known as the Yeti, Alma, or Sasquatch. In Michigan, eerie sightings and massive footprints hint at something lurking in the wilderness. Hunters, police, and ordinary citizens report encounters too detailed to ignore. Hoax or hidden reality. The Shadow of the Wild explores chilling evidence and first-hand accounts that challenge what we think we know. Minds and lives of people, often entire societies around the globe. No matter who has talked of the creature, and no matter when and where the stories are told, the descriptions are similar as 7 to 8 foot tall, 500 to 700 pound, hairy giant that resembles an ape but walks erect like a human. In Nepal, the creature is known as the Yeti or abominable snowman. Aboriginal Australians call it Yowie. In Russia, it's the Alma. In Canada and the U.S. Pacific Northwest, it goes by the name Sasquatch. Throughout the rest of the United States, it's been dubbed Bigfoot because of the 17 to 20-inch long footprints people say it has left in snow, mud, or dirt. Tracks, in fact, most often are the only evidence offered of Bigfoot's existence. No one has ever captured or killed one of the man-beasts. The few photos or film offered up as proof have been, at best, inconclusive, at worst, staged. Reliable sightings of the shy, elusive creature, which is said to inhabit only the world's remotest areas, are rare. One source, for instance, says that there have been only about 1,000 bona fide glimpses of Bigfoot in North America during the past 200 years. Some have occurred in Michigan. Michigan Indians, in fact, may have first sighted Bigfoot 3 or 4 centuries ago, says Wayne King, a Bigfoot expert from Carroll. King, who is director of the Michigan-Canadian Bigfoot Information Center, says that a Michigan species of Bigfoot exists, and that there are probably several hundred of them roaming through untouched areas of Michigan wilderness. The experts, however, would have a hard time convincing some very sane, normal, rational Michigan residents and visitors who have had some very unusual experiences. To them, Bigfoot is a very real possibility. Tracks around Buried and Becky Kurtz opened her back door the morning of September 3, 1977, to a puzzling sight. Her family's 2 normally fearless German Shepherd Husky mix watchdogs were whimpering and carrying on the cement stoop. When she opened the door, the terrified dogs shot inside to the basement where they hid for 2 days. Though Becky and her husband Bob had moved into their small, rural Barryton home only a week before, the dogs had adjusted well. Normally, they lay outside the back door, peering some 300 yards across a plowed field to the Hughes Swamp, which sprawls 14 miles to connect with the even more of a Martini Lake flowage. The Kurtz's dogs weren't the only animals to behave strangely. Numerous white-tailed deer that usually came out each day at dawn and dusk to feed on apples in a small, grassy orchard close to the house also disappeared. Several days later, Bob brought some trash to a metal burning barrel at the rear of their property. There he noticed some huge indentations in the bare soil. They were like no animal tracks he had ever seen. The prints measured 16.5 inches long and 9.5 inches wide, and the distance between them, the stride of whatever left them, was nearly 5 feet. Kurtz followed the tracks for 60 to 70 feet to where they disappeared into the orchard. Along the way, milkweeds and other plants had been crushed where each foot had come down. Most tracks were embedded 1.5 to 2 inches deep into the ground. Curious, Kurtz removed his shoes and socks and walked barefoot in the soil near some of the tracks. The 180-pound man's size 10.5 foot sank in only a half inch. Kurtz called in 2 other area residents, Gene Little and George McLean, for their opinion. Little was a longtime wildlife photographer and producer who had often shot film for the Michigan Outdoors television program. McLean was an experienced big-game hunter. It didn't take them long to agree that whatever had left the footprints weighed close to 800 pounds. Both also agreed it couldn't have been a bear. When Little and McLean examined the ground closely, they found no telltale round prints that would have been made by a bear's front paw. And if a huge bear somehow, for some reason, had managed to walk on its hind legs over such a long distance, it could never have managed a stride of 5 or 6 feet, they said. Also, a bear moving in an upright position would have a straddle-like gait. The tracks on the Kurtz property ran in a straight, human-like pattern. Little shot footage of the tracks for a Grand Rapids television station, and Kurtz made plaster casts of them. One exceptionally clear casting showed a huge five-toed foot with no claws. Little, who died within the year, said on a taped account, "I don't see how it can be a hoax." The prints showed an ape-like toed foot with a definite ball imprint, not the kind of forgeries that would be left by someone wearing fake feet. If someone instead had pounded a handcrafted molded foot into the relatively hard soil, the resulting tracks would have been shallow and uniform. The prints behind the Kurtz home were deep and varied, all in all, very natural-looking, and, as Little and McLean observed, there were no tracks in the easiest place for a prankster to have placed them, the adjacent, freshly plowed field. Little came to a conclusion shared by McLean, the Kurtzes, and anyone else who has investigated the origin of the tracks. There is no good logical answer. Zane Grey, a retired state police lieutenant, paid what he expected to be a routine early morning visit to a remote gorge near Lake Ann where he was building a house. He arrived, however, to find 27 unusual, huge tracks embedded in the soft soil. The 18-inch-long prints, which showed a flexible ape-like toed foot with a ball imprint, had been sunk deep into the dirt by something with great weight. Less than a week later, Grey found more such tracks on a nearby road. Grey, who later became sheriff of Benzie County, now says, "At the time, I was open to the possibility of a Bigfoot. There had been sightings in the area and mysterious noises. But now that all this time has elapsed without finding one, I think somebody probably made the tracks, but yet, I have absolutely no idea how." In 1981, the Battle Creek Inquirer reported several sightings of a 9-foot hairy creature in and around the Fort Custer State Recreation Area. In one incident, according to the paper, Bill Cosmitter, a recreation supervisor, and state trooper Paul Erling from the Hastings Post saw a huge creature on the frozen surface of a beaver pond while they were making the rounds of adjacent military land in a park truck one evening. By the time the pair moved in for a closer look, however, the thing had disappeared. During the summer of 1979, Nicholas Zeroik and his fiancée, Abby Matthews, were driving on US 27 toward what was supposed to be a routine, relaxing up north weekend. About 50 miles north of Midland, the couple, both senior law students at the University of Michigan, saw 3 huge, hairy creatures dash across the road ahead of them. At first I thought they were people, but they were moving as fast as deer, Zeroik said in a taped account of the incident. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. They weren't human. An investigation revealed that a fence off the highway at the spot had been broken through. Buckeyes battled Bigfoot during a 1976 training session. 2 Ohio National Guardsmen were assigned to spend the night in a personnel carrier in an isolated area of their camp near Grayling. In the pre-dawn hours, the men were awakened by something pounding on the vehicle. They clicked on their flashlights. Spotlighted in the beams was a huge, hairy, ape-like animal. The lights evidently angered the creature, said the guardsman, because it made menacing growling sounds and continued pounding as it climbed on top of the vehicle. The men radioed for help, and military policemen who arrived at the scene spotted the creature disappearing into the woods by a nearby lake. An investigation revealed that the incident was not a prank, and that the 2 men had not been drinking. Encounter 3, The Hamilton Sasquatch Watch, by Kathy Jackson, The Dallas Morning News, Hamilton, Texas, home of the Fighting Bulldogs, the world's biggest dove festival, and possibly Bigfoot. Reports have surfaced of a tall, hairy, ape-faced creature roaming the banks of the Leon River. Some residents claim they've seen it, though many dismiss the stories as a joke, or, a hoax designed to grab tabloid headlines. Roger Miller, editor of the Hamilton Herald News, has received multiple reports from people too afraid to reveal their identities. There are people who believe they've seen something, Miller says. The mystery began with a letter to the Herald News from a man named Daniel Fisker, who claimed he and his family spotted a massive hair-covered figure with long arms, human-like features, and fang-like teeth while driving home from Stephenville. It growled, leaped over a guardrail, and vanished into the brush. But there's a problem. No one knows who Daniel Fisker is. In a town of 3,000 where everyone knows everyone, Fisker appears to be a phantom. Miller checked records and found no trace of him. It's highly unlikely he exists, Miller admits, though he doesn't discount the possibility that someone truly saw something and used a pseudonym to avoid ridicule. Fisker's letter inspired others to come forward. Hilda Lunsford recalled an encounter in 1985 while driving between Olin and Cranfill's Gap. A huge thing came out of the road, stood on its hind legs, and looked at me. It had the face of an ape and was completely black. I locked my doors and waited to see what it would do. Lunsford says she was mocked, but stands by her story. Bigfoot researcher Daniel Perez believes the reports fit a well-documented pattern of sightings near roadways and water sources. These animals need water, and wooded areas provide cover, he explains. Still, some residents suspect a prank. One theory points to Plank Wilson, an electrician with size 12.5 feet and an ape suit he wears on Halloween, but Wilson denies any involvement. Now Hamilton is on high alert with its own unofficial Sasquatch Watch. Whether Bigfoot is real or not, one thing is certain: people are watching. Encounter 4: The Bigfoot Hunter of Cairo, by Mary Dreyer, Cairo, Michigan. For Wayne King, the search for Bigfoot started as an effort to debunk the myth. Instead, it turned him into a believer. A 55-year-old GM press operator, King runs the Michigan-Canadian Bigfoot Information Center from his home. His office, crammed with newspaper clippings, photos, and plaster casts of massive footprints, is a stark contrast to the charming, country-style decor of the rest of his house. I set out to prove Bigfoot was a hoax, King says. Instead, I found the opposite. I've seen the animal myself. His encounters happened in 1978 near Kingston and in 1984 outside Cairo near Enos Park. King believes Bigfoot is a species of ape, not a humanoid. It could be part human, he admits, but I doubt it. Unlike some researchers, King wants to capture definitive proof, by any means necessary. He carries a high-powered rifle and warns against venturing into the woods unarmed. A tranquilizer gun, he says, is impractical due to range and dosage concerns. For skeptics, King displays massive footprint casts, some 17 inches long and 8 inches wide. He also keeps a glass-encased sample of what he claims is Bigfoot fecal matter from Benzie County. Although Tuscola County has recorded 38 sightings since 1965, neighboring Huron and Sanilac counties have none. King believes this doesn't mean Bigfoot isn't there, just that witnesses are afraid to come forward. This story might shake the bushes, King says, hoping more people will report sightings. I don't need the publicity. I have nothing to sell. His work has been featured in multiple books, solidifying his reputation as Michigan's premier Bigfoot investigator. Encounter 5: The Relentless Search at Bluff Creek, by Joe Vargo, the Sacramento Bee, Bluff Creek, California. Warren Thompson crouched over a footprint in the sand, brushed away debris, then shook his head. "It's a bear track," he muttered. "Not what we're looking for." For over a decade, Thompson has hunted for signs of Bigfoot, combing the forest from California to British Columbia. Though he has never seen the creature, he once found footprints, evidence that keeps him searching. Sightings and fresh tracks have declined in recent years, possibly due to rising gas prices limiting search efforts. Still, debate rages. Believers argue that thousands of sightings can't all be hoaxes. Skeptics counter that no physical evidence, bones, fur, or a carcass, has ever been found. Thompson's devotion is obvious. His home is filled with Bigfoot research, footprint casts, and even a Bigfoot-shaped accelerator pedal in his truck. His extensive files are open to anyone interested. Serious Bigfoot researchers communicate frequently. Among them are Bob and Tommy Throneberry, a Texas husband and wife team who approach the mystery scientifically. "If Bigfoot exists, it exists whether or not we believe in it," Bob says. They criticize the field for being overrun by amateurs and mystics who claim paranormal connections to the creature. The biggest piece of evidence remains the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, showing a hairy figure walking upright through the Six Rivers National Forest. Though some claim it was a man in a suit, analysis suggests the creature's gait is inhuman. Patterson, who swore on his deathbed the footage was real, left the film locked in a Salt Lake City vault. Thompson has visited the filming site, now reclaimed by the forest. Despite years of analysis, no definitive proof has emerged. He vows to keep searching but refuses to harm a Bigfoot if he finds one. "I just want to see it," he says. "I don't want it exploited. Bigfoot doesn't need man." But for some reason, man seems to need Bigfoot. Leaving one question unanswered: what did they see that night? Encounter 8, The Two Who Got Too Close, by Wayne King, Michigan Canadian Bigfoot Information Center Report, 1978. Kingston, Michigan. Wayne King had already heard countless Bigfoot stories, but nothing prepared him for what he saw in 1978. Responding to a call on his Bigfoot hotline, King rushed to a rural area near Kingston just before dusk. He expected to find nothing. Instead, he found them. Two creatures, one large, one small, stood at the edge of the forest. The larger figure, nearly 8 feet tall, had broad shoulders, long arms, and thick dark hair. The smaller one, possibly an offspring, stood beside it. Frozen in shock, King barely had time to react before the creatures turned and disappeared into the dense woods. Realizing he was unarmed, he called the state police for backup. By the time officers arrived, the creatures were gone, but something remained, a lingering sense of unease. "It was the only time I've ever known fear," King later admitted. "We could hear them breathing. We knew they were still there, watching. I thought we were about to be attacked." The trooper beside him clicked the safety off his gun. Then, silence. No attack came. Whatever was out there melted into the shadows, leaving behind only questions and a witness who would never again doubt the legend of Bigfoot. Encounter 11, The Rancher's Plan, by Ken Craig, Hamilton, Texas, 1992. Hamilton, Texas. With Bigfoot hysteria sweeping through town, rancher Ken Craig had a simple request for the local newspaper. "If someone spots Bigfoot, call me first. I'd like to put him to work." Craig, an old-school Texan, joked that if the creature was real, it could help build fences and bale hay. His letter to the Hamilton Herald News sparked laughter, but it also highlighted a key point. Many locals believed something was lurking in the woods near the Leon River. Though skeptics wrote it off as a prank, the sightings continued. Some even whispered that Bigfoot had been in Hamilton for years. People just hadn't been brave enough to admit it. Final thoughts: the mystery remains. From the deep forests of Michigan to the riverbanks of Texas, reports of massive humanoid creatures have persisted for centuries. Skeptics argue that without physical evidence, a body, bones, or DNA, Bigfoot cannot exist. Yet thousands of eyewitnesses insist they've seen something they cannot explain. Are these creatures a lost species, a relic from another time, or merely a product of the human imagination? Until definitive proof emerges, Bigfoot will remain what it has always been, a legend lurking just beyond the reach of reality. Thanks for viewing the latest Bigfoot Encounters episode. What do you think? Have you had a Bigfoot encounter? Share your thoughts in the comments. Please like and subscribe for more incredible sightings.